sounds better with the music. We're not starting yet. We've got 1 minute for any that come in. There's still plenty of seating in the other Kingdom Hall as well, and we have plenty of seating in the back schools here also. So lots of seats. Don't feel pressured to find one here and one there. Friends, we're happy to have you here. The family is happy to have you here. And what the family would like to do is have everyone sing a song to start the program today. So inside your, whatever we call this thing, there is one page with a song on one side and a song number 90 on the other side. If you want to stand, you can. If you want to sit, you can sit. But let's sing song number 90, and that'll give us opportunity to get warmed up for the discussion at hand. Okay to be seated. We don't usually start these things with prayers, but we certainly enjoyed that song. William F. Hammer was one of those that had gray hair. He was born June the 20th, 1920, and he passed on in sleep August the 5th, 2015. He was 95 years old. Oftentimes at events like this, we come and we sit and we ask ourselves, why am I here? And there's actually lots of reasons why we come to these things. Some of us are here to show the family that we are grieving as well. Some of us are here to demonstrate the love that you have for Bill and for the family. And it is your hope that by your sharing their grief in some way, you can lighten the load like 250 people underneath a platform instead of 20. And the Hammer family appreciates that. Some are here because they hope they will feel better when this is all over. And that is our hope and that is our prayer, but the reality is it usually doesn't happen that way. We do for the moment, but the grieving process continues, and it is our hope that you remember some of the things we discussed here to help you through those times when the shine of this occasion wears off. Some of us are here for closure, a final goodbye, if you will, a goodbye to a love that is now past, part of your life that will not be back for a long time. Yes, closure. Some of us are here to be reminded of what it says in Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 2. For there is the end of every man heart. Yes, some of us are here to be reminded. We have confidence, we have faith that this wicked system of things will end. We have no doubt that we are living in the last days of this wicked system of things. But like in the case of Bill, sometimes we pass on first before that end comes. If Bill were here to tell you, he would say, look at this picture, and then he would say, turn the page. You see the guy at the top of the next page? He liked taking his shirt off. See the pictures in the back, it's true. If we make light of it, but he would say, from that picture to that picture, the time went by like that. Take it to heart, is what Bill would say. Ecclesiastes 7:2 says, take it to heart. We need to make sure we are right with Jehovah every single day, because we do not know when our sleep will come. Some are here to pay their last respects. And indeed, we think of paying respects to somebody that was great. And Bill Hammer, he wasn't the kind of guy that stood in front of the charge. He wasn't the kind of guy that stood on the corner and tried to politicize himself. He was happy blending into the background. But when you got to know him, when you saw how he stood up, how he was manly, courageous, an example of humility, determination, and godliness. Indeed, he was a great man. The people who took care of him feel that he is a great man. The family certainly feels he was a great man. And so some are here to pay respects for those sorts of things, and the Hammer family appreciates that very much. But the reality is, Bill won't know of the respect that you're showing because he's asleep. His condition is described in Ecclesiastes 9:5, where it says, the living know they will die, but the dead know nothing at all. What does it mean? At all. With this. And so he went through a great exercise and pained himself to demonstrate this, or to go through this exercise, to demonstrate what Ecclesiastes 9:5 means. It's a situation regarding Lazarus. Turn with me, please, to that scripture, John chapter 11. In John chapter 11, what a wonderful example of Jesus' foreknowledge of our situation, of the situation his disciples would go through. John the 11th chapter, we know it's what it says there in verse 1. Doesn't look right, I'm in Luke. Okay. The account says, "Now a man named Lazarus was sick. He was from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha." And then note verse 3, please. And it says in verse 3, "So his sisters sent a message to Jesus," right, saying, "Lord, see, the one you have affection for is sick." Skip down to verse 5 and 6. "Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. However, when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he actually remained in the place where he was for 2 more days." In verse 11, 2 days have passed, and now Jesus says, according to the narration here, he said these things and he added, "Lazarus, our friend, has fallen asleep, but I am traveling there to awaken him." And then verse 14, see, the disciples were trying to figure this out. If he's asleep, he'll wake up on his own. "Oh, and by the way, we were just there in Judea, a year or so ago, and they tried to kill us, and you want to go back? Just, here I am, so you can wake somebody up." Why did Jesus set this stage? See, in verse 14, he had to tell them plainly. Jesus said to them plainly, "Lazarus has died." Jesus was demonstrating 2 important points. The first point was that when it says in Ecclesiastes 9:5, the dead are conscious of nothing at all, Jesus' point was they're asleep. Can we see that? They're asleep. They don't know what's going on around them. They're unaware. When you sneak down the stairs and steal the pie out of the refrigerator because your folks are asleep upstairs, they're not going to know. But they will eventually. The same thing with those that have passed away in death. They're asleep. But they will know eventually that this occasion occurred and this respect was shown to them, because Jesus went on to demonstrate this. And notice here in verse 43 and verse 44, it says there, "When he had said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, 'Lazarus, come out!'" So Jesus raised from the dead this person who was, for all intents and purposes, sleeping. We should take comfort in this. John the 11th chapter, verse 21 and 23 through 25. Let's look at that. "Martha then said to Jesus, 'Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died.'" And then verse 23, Jesus said to her, "Your brother will rise." Martha said, "I know he will rise in the resurrection on the last day." And Jesus then said to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. The one exercising faith in me, though he dies, will come to life." So it wasn't just Lazarus that was going to benefit from this occasion. The Bible, this example of what Jesus was setting forth, point number 1, death is like sleep. Point number 2, the sleep can be awakened. Can we see that from this situation or surrounding Lazarus? It says in the Bible that when this Martha said the resurrection on the last day in verse 24, they knew of this resurrection that would happen in the last day, and we know about it. It's yet to come. Bill will be a part of that. And when that takes place, the scripture in Revelation 20:14, where it says, death, the last enemy, will be destroyed or thrown into the lake of fire, that will be true, because there will be no more death. There will be no more sleeping of that kind. Some believe that death is a doorway to heaven or hell. The Bible teaches that death is a time of sleep. In God's good time, some get resurrected to heavenly life to serve as kings with Christ. Others, rather the majority of mankind, remain asleep in the grave until the earth is cleared of wickedness, and then they are resurrected with the opportunity of never getting sick ever again and never passing into this sleep. Do we take time to thank Jehovah for this arrangement, that the dead are just sleeping? They're not able to suffer in the things that they may see us do, and they can't interfere. Are we thankful because we have the hope of the resurrection and the truth? The problem is, not with God's arrangement, but in verse 23. She said, Jesus said, your brother will rise. In verse 24, she said, it'll happen in the last day. In Lazarus' case, it was right away. It's happening now. Get ready. In our case, we have to wait. In the last day. Well, we are living in the last days. We don't know when they will end, but it's still a wait. But in the meantime, while we wait, don't ever think that it's easy for Jesus or for Jehovah to wait. Because you see, we skipped over the verses. Notice there in verse 32 through 35, Jesus' response. When it says there in verse 32, when Mary arrived where Jesus was and caught sight of him, she fell at his feet and said to him, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come with her weeping, he groaned within himself and became troubled. And then he said, where have you laid him? And they said to him, Lord, come see. Jesus gave way to tears. It wasn't an automatic, I'm going to resurrect the guy in a couple of minutes. What's the big deal? That wasn't what was going on. It wasn't an act to make it sound like he was this big caring guy. Jesus was moved at the pain that individuals suffer when they go through the loss of a loved one. And he was the exact representation of Jehovah God. So they have to wait. It's not easy for them either. It's true, Jehovah and Jesus look at time differently than we do. If you took a ruler, 36 inches, right, in 1,000 pieces, here, right, and then you multiply that by 100. So just divide it by 100, I guess would work, right, for the mathematicians in the room. The point is, if you lived 100 years on that yardstick, you would have lived 3.6 inches. Bill Hammer lived almost 3.6 inches of 1,000 years. We are given the opportunity to live 1,000 years in the new system of things and beyond. How long really is our wait? See, when we see things from Jehovah's point of view, the wait is not so bad. But it's still a wait. And Jehovah shares every tear that we share. What do we do in the meantime? Well, what's in store in the future when Bill is resurrected? You see the picture there on the top of page 2. That's, I know they're not numbered. That's the one where Bill and Gaida are, they've just gotten married. They're getting into the car, ready to go on their honeymoon. We can expect Bill and Gaida both to look like that on the day of their resurrection. We can imagine the resurrections happening around us, and the family is kind of gathered together. They got a heads up, and in the distance, why, that looks like, I think it looks like Bill. And he's walking towards you, and all of a sudden he recognizes you guys, and he starts running. And as he gets closer, he starts singing this song, the hello song. Hello, 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 what a wonderful word, hello. I'm sorry, I don't have it down quite right, but... And indeed, what a grand hello that will be for that day. But that's the way he was. That's the way he is. At the Kingdom Hall, he would always be the first to greet people and say hello to them. When he spoke to people, you had his attention. He wasn't distracted with other things. Bill never spoke negatively about those around him. All right, one prop. No, it's not High-Lie. This was an evidence of the personality of Bill. We've talked a little bit about Jehovah's personality and how he's willing to weep with us and wait with us until the time of the resurrection. Bill's personality, as we mentioned, he never saw the negative in other people, or at least never voiced it. Even in inanimate things like this, how many times did you guys tell him to ditch this thing? Get rid of it, Dad. But no, it's got value. You know, the handle is still good. It feels nice in my hand. And to prove the point, he would go out and actually try to play with this thing. And I guess he did okay. But that's the way he treated people around him. There was always a value in them. No matter how messed up they might seem to be on the outside, there was always a value. Can we be like that? Can we learn from Bill not to give up on each other, not to give up on ourselves? Now, in our vision of the future here, Bill is walking with his family, right? He said the hello song, and he's hugged everybody, and he's looking around, okay, anybody missing? And he's going along, and he starts to remember where it all started. Way back in Seattle. Bill and Gaida have been married since 1947 for 67 years. To tell you the kind of person Bill was. All right, let me do it this way. You got your program there. You got page 1. Look at Gaida there on page 2 in the car. All right, now turn the page. There's Bill and Gaida in that picture on the left at the top of the page. Best guess, they might be getting ready to go out dancing. They love to dance. Gaida, you were a doll. Is it okay to say that from the platform? Bill had competition. He wasn't the only person that Gaida was dating. So, how was Bill going to win her over? See, Bill not only was the kind of guy that always said hello and always greeted people, always valued people, but he knew what he wanted and he was determined. So in this case, his determination was demonstrated by going to Gaida's mother. Bring flowers to her mom. Boy, sooner or later the mom said, you know, that William is a very nice man. And of course, the creme de la creme, it's not here because it's fairly fragile. Bill was an artist, and he ultimately got an art and graphic design degree in California. But in the process of all of that, he drew Gaida a card. Very nice artwork and all of this, and I guess there was a popular song in those days. He quoted part of it, and he said in the card, "I'm not here to start a fire in the world, just one in your heart." And that was it. That was over. All the other guys are gone. It was only Bill. But it gives us an idea. You know, Bill wasn't bashful about the things that he wanted, and that's a good thing. Shouldn't we be that way as well? Now, for a certainty, on the day of Bill's resurrection, and he's greeted everybody, and he's you know, sang the song, and he's done all this thing. I mean, resurrection's a big deal. I mean, don't you think we should have a party? Well, yeah. Was Bill good at parties? Well, you see the saxophone back there. He's got to have music. You know, there's a story about that sax. You see the picture there on you can read my own writing. It's page 4, I think. It's the one in the centerfold at the bottom right. Bill's playing the sax, sitting on the piano stool, and evidently that's Liam learning at his side. The whole family was actually musically inclined, and that's evident in the fact of who plays the piano and who plays other instruments. But when Bill got to be in his late 80s, early 90s, it got harder and harder for him to produce the wind to be able to play the saxophone. And so on one occasion, one of our brothers from College Park, Zachary Derry, many of you probably know him, he plays the saxophone also, and he went over to Bill to you know, have a jam session if possible, but at least to be encouraging. And so Bill brought out the saxophone, and he strapped it on with the strap that Kathy made for him, and he's ready, and they start, but he just couldn't produce the wind. And so there's this expression on Bill's face where, you know, I'm a little bit sad. But he closes his eyes, and he just listens to the music. And then the smile comes back to his face. What does that demonstrate? Bill was not the kind of person to let the circumstances around him make him be bitter. He could turn it around and remember what it's going to be like in the new world when he can really play that thing even better than here and now. He appreciated very much that visit from Zach Derry. But we can appreciate the personality. Don't let things get you down. Bill would say, when life throws you a curveball, throw it back. Don't give up. Fight back. Got to have dancing at this party. We already mentioned, you know, the one picture there. They're getting ready to go dancing. There's another picture towards the end of the program where you can see Bill and Gaida in their mature years still dancing. I think that's on the last page before the song. Why is that important? Mark told the story when he was young. All the kids went to bed, and they're upstairs, and there's this noise coming from down below. And so, like all dastardly little children that don't want to go to sleep, he snuck down the stairs, and he looks, and he hears the big band music playing on the old vinyl record, and there was Bill and Gaida dancing away on the floor, all alone, all by themselves. Bill was not one to not be romantic, to not be sentimental. We don't have to be harsh and hard all the time. We can be like he was in that regard as well. Was Bill ever a prankster? You know, this quiet, you know, unimposing guy? Well, yeah. So in the program, there's another picture. You see, I think it's on the last page. You see the guy with that blonde wig? Let's see, next to the last page. There he is, page 6 by my count. I got meaning to ask you, was he foaming at the mouth? What is it? No? The story, this was at a party, going away party for the Hagelgans family. And The party was nearly over. Bill had staged, so there were some people in the audience that were dressed up in suits, and you never really knew why, and they had music boxes, music cases, but there was already an orchestra there. So near the end of the party, Bill, he's got the wig on, and he shuffles out towards this little platform with the music stand, and he takes out the little conductor's baton, and he taps to get everybody's attention. And the folks that had been kind of dressed up for the occasion, they kind of came forward and sat down, and they opened their cases, but you couldn't see what was in the case. And so just about the right moment, he tapped the baton again, and he started like a conductor, and everybody pulled out a kazoo and started to play 2001 Space Odyssey. That had to be a ripping, roaring moment. This man that we love, he could play a prank. He knew what was enough and what was too much. But really, the man that we love, he's going to want to have a real party after his resurrection. So you guys are going to have to plan. So now he's resurrected, he's had the party, he's danced with his wife and with everybody else. Day 2 rolls around. What's he going to do? Bill, why are you in the garage? He's rumbling out. You hear things throwing around. I'm looking for my tool belt. Right? Where's my hammer? Where's my tool belt? I got things to do. You see there on page 5 the picture of his truck? Hammer Construction. He wasn't always Hammer Construction. There's another story there. Bill graduated art and graphic design, and he actually worked as a graphic artist for General Electric and then for Honeywell, which I guess at the time was a subsidiary of GE. He was with them for 18 years. You see, in the span of that time, Gaida had started to study the Bible. She had gotten baptized. The kids had gotten baptized. Bill finally saw the light, and he studied, and he got baptized. And so that was in 1965 that Bill got baptized. By 1973, Bill is now 53 years old, and there's a problem. His wife's pioneering, and he loves the ministry, he loves helping people, and here he is with this ad company. You know, he was an advertising executive for Honeywell, and their job was to spin. All right, that's a nice way to say lie, but that's what it boils down to. And so there was this crisis of conscience going on. And so by 1973, at 53 years of age, Bill quit. He gave up his pension, quit, and started to regular pioneer with his family. Did it take courage to do that? Indeed. Did it take faith that Jehovah would provide? Indeed it did. Did Bill need to be humble? Indeed. For he ended up sweeping parking lots to make money. He ended up, at 53 years old, mind you, clearing the hillsides of brush so that surveyors could go in and survey. This was hard work for a 53-year-old man, but for Bill it was worth it because he could serve the true God. And then, during that process, he learned, a brother taught him kitchen remodeling, and he bought that business and became Hammer Construction. And he worked at that until he was 80 years old. Bill was not afraid of work. What qualities of Bill do you want to imitate? His courage, humility, his faith and faithfulness, willingness to work hard. Well, day 2 is not over yet. He found his tool pouch and the tool belt and his hammer, and he's saying, okay, is it RBC, LDC, or NWC? You know, NWC, New World Construction, right? He's going to want to get it going. And we will want to be there to do it as well. No doubt, after a short period of time, Bill will want to walk around and visit all of his old Bible studies, the individuals that he and Gaida and the family helped into the truth. He'll want to visit with Bethany and Amanda and the other caregivers that helped to take care of him when life was very hard, because he loves those individuals. Friends, Bill and Gaida will be walking along in the new. Bill will come to the conclusion, look, it has all come true. All the promises of Revelation 21, 3 and 4. Tears are all gone. There's no sad, mournful faces anywhere to be found. Death is no more. Jehovah is indeed living with mankind. What a grand time that will be. And it's not that far off. But in times of grief, sometimes we can get lost in grief. We can start questioning our belief in God. We can question the belief in the Bible. We can question our belief that Jehovah really is there to help us and to carry us through. That's not uncommon. That's the way grief can be. So what do you do about it? Do your homework. Get out the old Bible Teach book. Get out some of the other books that start reviewing these things. We have every reason to believe that Jehovah is the true God and that he created mankind with a purpose. Just the genetic code description in our New Awake magazine can convince you of that. Our belief in the Bible can be so sure, just remembering how many attempts were made to get rid of it, and it survived. Our belief that Jehovah can help us and carry us through is indeed perhaps one of the most important points that we need to talk about. Please open your Bibles to Matthew chapter 10. In Matthew the 10th chapter, we know that Jesus is going to be talking about the sparrows. But the context of Jesus bringing this subject up, for instance, there in Matthew 10, look at verse 19, about the middle of the verse or the first third of the verse where it says, do not become anxious. And then skip down to verse 26, do not fear them. Verse 28, do not become fearful. In grief, there's a lot of fear about lots of things. Jesus was trying to convince his disciples. They were afraid of being killed by mobs when they would go out and preach and try to imitate Jesus. But we can learn the same lesson about facing this kind of difficulty and not be afraid. For in verse 29, 30, and 31, Jesus said, 2 sparrows sell for a coin of small value, do they not? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground without your Father's knowledge. But even the hairs of your head are all numbered. So have no fear, you are worth more than many sparrows. How can we put that in words we speak? Suppose you're going on a hike. You go out here to the Cuyamaca Mountains, Green Valley Falls, or whatever, and you're going on a hike. And you're walking along, and you look down, and you see a dead sparrow in the trail. And poor dead sparrow, right? And the next thing you know, you hear a hawk, and you go, and you look up, and you've forgotten all about the dead sparrow. And you walk on a little more, and you see another dead sparrow, and it's like, wow, that's kind of weird, too. And by the time this is starting to register in your head, you hear a woodpecker. You know, he's preparing for winter. And you've forgotten about both of those sparrows. And so you walk on a little farther, and there's a meadow up ahead, and you hear, or you see and hear, some ravens circling, and you got this sensation of a bad smell, and you get a little closer, and you see crows jumping all over the place, and you look, and there are 1,000 dead sparrows in this field, and it's like, oh my gosh, I got to do something. This is weird. We got to go, tell somebody. You got a gas mask someplace? I mean, there's something going on here. You didn't react to the 2. Now you react. when you stumble, when you fall, when you cry, when you are in pain, Jehovah reacts to you the way you would react to the many. That's Jesus' point. He says, you're worth more than many, but I notice the one. If Jehovah is willing to notice us to this extent, then certainly He is willing to provide you, the family, and all of a difficult time. As the difficult days pass, you have every reason not to fear. You have every reason to take courage. You have every reason to feel like the lamb in Jehovah's hands. I'm getting the signal. I got to make it higher. You have every reason to feel like the lamb in Jehovah's great hands and in Christ's hands, the great shepherd. Really, we have every reason to feel that way. If you will, turn with me, please, to Isaiah chapter 40. Isaiah, the 40th chapter, in verses 30 or note at the very beginning of the verse of 29, it says, He gives power to the tired one. In verse 31, he says, but those hoping in Jehovah will regain power. And then over a page to chapter 41, verse 10, he says, do not be afraid, for I am with you. Do not be anxious, for I am your God. I will fortify you. Yes, I will help you. I will really hold on to you with my right hand of righteousness. All of us, but especially those grieving, have every reason to feel Jehovah's hand in your hand. Every reason to believe that He feels this kind of compassion for you. To what end? To what end do we go through this? In James at chapter 1, let's take a look very briefly at the point there. The Bible book of James, right after Hebrews. I know it's there. I can find it. I can. James chapter 1, you see in verse 4, it says, let endurance complete its work, so that you may be complete and sound in all respects, not lacking in anything. Bill succeeded in that. He endured. And now we're faced with enduring the pain of grief, but it's not to no end. There's a reason that we may be complete. Complete in what way? Turn over just a page. 1 Peter, 2 pages. 1 Peter chapter 1. Now the whole section of verse between verse 3 and verse 9 is a little complicated. And so we're just going to highlight part of verse 7. In verse 7 it says, you see where it says the tested quality of your faith? Why do we endure? According to James there, it says that the tested quality of your faith, and then skip down to the last 3 lines of verse 7. The tested quality of your faith will become a cause of praise and glory and honor for you. Your tested faith will become a reason for praise and glory and honor bestowed upon you at the revelation of the Christ. That's why we endure. We will ultimately have Jehovah's perfect approval. And Bill will too. Well, there are lots of things I'd like to say, but I'm already over time. We thank all of the friends for being here. We're going to have Brother Warner Schmidt give prayer after we sing one more song. So maybe we can stand if it's convenient. And we're going to sing song number 134. The title of song 134 is See Yourself When All Is New.
Grand Creator, it's so good to be here. What we've heard today is things that we need to know about and to take into account. We think about the house of mourning, and at times like this, of course, it's sad. But we know that you are going to make things right. We see a lot of things that are wrong in this world today, a lot of pain and suffering, and we know it pains you. But we do know that you're going to fix it. You're going to make it the way it should be. Bring about a paradise earth where all righteous mankind will enjoy a wonderful life. Now Bill has passed away. It's almost like putting life on hold for a while. Until, as Job said, you will call and he will come. And that's what's going to happen. What a wonderful thought when you stop and think about it. Yes, we mourn. Yes, Bill will be missed. But we know that he's in God's memory. There couldn't be a better place than being in your memory, Jehovah, where you know everything about us. And you'll bring us back, if we pass away, the same way that we were, but only perfect. What a wonderful hope. We thank you for this, and we thank you for your Son that makes this possible. His ransom sacrifice. And we do appreciate also the theocratic arrangement here on earth today. And we can see your Son running things on earth through his organization. So maybe we take hope and trust in Jehovah, and we need to reflect on things ourselves about what our priorities are and how important the kingdom message is. So we may want to think about these things by coming to this house of mourning. Jehovah, we thank you for all that you've given us and your love and your kindness and putting up with our imperfections. Please forgive us for those. And we thank you for all this in Jesus' dear name. Amen.
Friends, we've got a couple of real quick announcements. The family is going to go outside, and so please stay where you are until they're all outside, and then we can, go and talk to them and give them our condolences and love once they're outside. Let's see. It says also, I'm going to read this. Please stay in your seats for a moment so the family can move outside to receive anyone from both halls. Also, if you are involved with the shuttles at the reception, please feel free to leave with your family at this time. There will be a reception location at 1401 North Melrose Drive. It's basically those new apartments behind the AM/PM on the corner of Melrose and Bouvier. Since parking there will certainly be limited, we're allowed to park in that Sprinter parking lot. And we can either walk from there over to the rec center at that apartment complex, or shuttles will take us there. It says, please turn, as far as directions, please turn right as you exit the Kingdom Hall. You can only drive, go through the light, turn left into the Sprinter parking lot station. Brothers will be there to assist you with shuttles, or you can walk directly to the reception location. All right. Thank you, friends. We appreciate your kindness and your patience.